Welcome to this very special edition of Thought to Action, presented by the Herb London Center for Policy Research. I'm Chris Cordani. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to hit that like button, also comment, share, and subscribe. To enjoy sneak previews of our videos, exclusive content, and more special programming in the works, join our Patreon page, patreon.com/thought to action. Also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Getter, and our website, londoncenter.org. And check out our Thought to Action Teespring store. We have some new cool t-shirt designs as well. As some of you might know, I also host a music-based radio show where I've met some really good people along the way. As we at the London Center have discussed social media censorship in the past quite a few times, nobody who questions dictated narratives from certain political quarters is immune, including some of these aforementioned good people I met along the way. So our president, Tony Shaffer, and I invited them on Thought to Action to talk with us. I'm very happy to have you both on here. First, with us, Jennie Matthias of the Belle Stars and founder of many great charity events, who, like Tony, has been banished from Twitter for wrongthink. And Nancy Quatro of the great band Cradle, who has spent quite a bit of time in Facebook jail for a little more than posting thoughts some people didn't like. The center and I have also felt the effects of social media shadow banning, which has also been a blatant denial of free speech, but even worse, the spread of real information. Tony, let's lead off with what happened to you. You posted tweets exposing, well, a lot of people. but just talk about what happened to you and what got you excommunicated from Twitter.
Well, first off, Jennie, Nancy, thank you for being here. We love doing stuff like this. I'd like to do more of it. And let me just frame this in such a way that everybody understands. I'm not super political. I know that's hard to believe, but I simply try to state what I believe is objective truth. And it seems to me that truth is very unpopular. So to Chris's point, I was just pointing out this guy named Ray Epps, who was apparently inciting violence on the 5th of June. And on the 6th of June, he's seen in front of the Capitol pushing people to go in. And I'm saying, why isn't this guy indicted? What's wrong with this guy? And I tag him. And the same day, I am gone permanently. Oh, you can't be pointing out obvious discrepancies in our narrative. It's like, excuse me. And then similarly, a while back, again, not political. I know the people who were involved I know JP and his uncle who actually got the Hunter Biden hard drive to the FBI. I know these people. It's like, I know them. And plus, last time I checked all the stuff on the wall, see, I'm an intelligence officer with 30 years of experience. You know, I don't know if that means anything or not, but apparently not to Twitter, because I said, my judgment is the Hunter Biden hard drive is real. And next thing you know, I'm gone again. So it's kind of like, it's amazing when you simply say things which, no matter who you are politically, it's like they will come after you. And then literally, and then as Chris knows, we had this wacky guy from Imagine Dragons, the bassist, who was stalking me.
I remember.
And stalking the feed. And it's kind of like, dude, what the heck? And then I did this, and I admitted to it. I would always go back at them until they got so mad they would make a threat, and then I get them suspended. And then that got me in trouble. Somehow me getting them upset and then them saying something to break the rules is bad because I'm the one that got suspended. So that's the background I had. So over to you, Chris. I mean, that's
first, I want to reiterate this. And Tony, you got to make this more public later on, and it has been made public years after we were told, no, that Hunter Biden laptop is not real. No, if you say anything about it, you will be kicked off or shadow banned, or you will be excommunicated from our social media platform because it's a lie. However, Tony, you were in possession of a copy of it, number one, and number two.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Look, you even said it on a recent...
I can't confirm or deny that, Chris.
There you go. But on a recent television show, somebody did, in fact, ask you about it.
Yeah, maybe.
You can find that. You found it. It was on the Donlin Report, and that's where you can find what happened. Jennie.
I don't want to get shadow banned on my own show here, Chris. You know, you got to be careful.
Good point.
You're gonna...
Which reminds me, we have an Odyssey channel now too. So in case we get in any trouble here or somewhere else on YouTube or Rumble or anywhere, I don't think we get in trouble on Rumble, but try us in Odyssey as well. Jennie, you were kicked off Twitter. Nancy, you were thrown in Facebook jail several times. Talk about what happened to you guys.
I mean, this was over, I built up Twitter for a long time, and before the COVID thing, see, you notice it's like always, since the COVID thing happened, all of a sudden, if you go against their narrative, then you're in trouble. Now, prior to that, there wasn't any kind of real reason. I mean, obviously the odd political thing, but no one was as bad as they were during COVID. Anyway, since COVID. And so, of course, I would just say what I thought I saw, this is just the truth, basically. Well, the truth that everybody else could see. And then I just noticed a few things, oh, you're not allowed to say that and this, that, and the other. And then I just thought, well, why not? This is, what's wrong with that? And it didn't even seem too bad. Anyway, the thing that got me thrown off was I had I'd mentioned about somebody. I think it was one of the generals, and I was they were talking about the LGBT thing, which I don't understand. But it's okay. It's the community's fine. But I just said something. It wasn't even derogatory, and that was it. That's it. You're not coming back. Now they kind of stopped me a few times and said you were suspended. So I thought, okay, no big deal. And when I was first suspended, I've been suspended 3 times before that happened, And so when they first suspended me, I thought, would I really miss being on Twitter? What's so good about being on Twitter other than I can promote my music, which in a way is kind of good, and help the charity. That's good as well. And then the second time I thought, would I really miss it? And then the third time I just thought, if they do this again, I'm not going back. And so when they actually told me to get off, I just left. But it inspired me to write a song. So with a bunch of guys, which I will be putting out at some point. Yeah, right. They did the same to me on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
We'd like to have you come back and talk about the song when it's ready. That'd be
definitely.
No, I'll send you the song, honey. Oh, you're gonna love it.
Cool.
And Nancy, you've been in Facebook jail because many a time I've been reading your posts saying, "Oh, back from Facebook jail," because I always think, "Hey, I'm missing Nancy on here. I haven't seen Nancy on my feed in a while. What's going on?"
Yeah.
But again, I read your posts. We exchange a lot on Nosebook, and I haven't seen really any falsehoods. I just see that people might not like what you have to say, and all of a sudden they complain to you. And that's how it works. People, if they just don't like what you have to say, they'll complain to the powers that be on Facebook. And then somebody, one of these sheltered kids who, I guess in their 20s and lived in some kind of bubble to begin with, think, oh my God, that might be offensive. Let's ban her for 30 days or do something. Nancy, how does this happen to you?
Well, the first thing I say is I don't give a shit if you like it or not. Excuse my language. But I have even been kicked off for something I posted 2 years ago. They actually kicked me off recently for a post that was during the Trump year, 2 years. And they kicked me off they said it was something in 2019. And I'm just going, what? But I approach so many subjects like pedophilia, the agenda that I think is going on, LGBTQ. I'm not kind about LGBTQ because I think that we're just a step away from them adding a P for pedophilia. And I'm not a group joiner that way anyway. And this goes way back to when I was 15 years old and Women's Lib came out. And that was the rock and roll years. I was just entering rock and roll. And I was very much very interested. What were all these women so up in arms about? So even on Facebook, when I've approached that, because I didn't agree with Women's Lib, most of what they said. The only thing I agreed with was equal pay for equal job for women. That I agree with. But for the most part, I thought they were full of crap. But I know I have to watch my language. I have a potty mouth. I'm so Detroit.
Me too. I'm behaving myself. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
unbleeped
We're
version will
amongst
be on
friends here, so
Odyssey.
I'm not worried about it. I don't know if Chris is or not.
No,
But I'm
really.
not.
Well, don't say that. Me and Nancy will be going for it.
It's just sometimes the most expressive way for me to express myself. But yeah, I've been, especially when I've done the pedophilia stuff, people have gotten, either offended. I have a lot of left friends that have, gotten rid of me whenever I do political. And I am not, like you, Tony, I'm really not political, but I am now. But it's not politics for me. It's the agenda that I think is so well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
Been well thought out for many, many years. I think it's working. And I hate to say it because I hate to be negative, but I'm a realist. I think it's working. I have grandchildren. I am so worried about the world that they're going to have to experience, of where it's headed now. The infiltration of, as young as kindergartners into their brains. To me, you could spend 2 years talking about every little thing that's happening in this world to change it, especially America. And you still wouldn't be done with the subject. It goes so deep. I think it goes so deep. And it's been a hard way I think it's hard right now. I would love to fight it. I keep begging to find a group that can get the truth, really get the truth out there, and actually find a way to get people to listen. But I find that the left thinkers, or the ones on the other side that are total opposite of me, I feel like I call it a mental illness. It's like you just can't penetrate. They believe everything that comes out, whether it's COVID, I don't care what it is. They believe every drop of it. And I actually am the opposite. I believe none of it until I see proof that it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes for 9/11, everything. From the minute I saw
the moon landings. Come on, let's talk about them. Yeah.
And
I could go down that path, trust me.
Yeah, there's a rabbit hole we can go down.
Yeah.
I know. And you know a lot about that, Tony, I know.
Well, I've been trying to get to the bottom of that since 2001. So yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We could talk about that a whole nother show and go through it. But yes.
For those of you that haven't read about Abel Danger, read that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
talk about rabbit hole. Yeah. So, but yes.
Yeah, and that's what's funny. I've spent 10 years truly going down the rabbit hole. Any information I got was just going down the rabbit hole, sussing out what feels right, sussing out what doesn't. But I am of the firm belief that their agenda is so large that I'm not sure we can beat it.
Oh no! I agree with you. It's large, but we're going to beat it. We're going to beat it, and I really think we're going to beat it. 100%.
We have to organize. Yeah, I think
that's what I want to talk about today too. This is exactly what I want to discuss with all of you: how to defeat them and what can we do. The idea of going to Gab and hiding out over there, yeah, we can give each other information, but that's not going to help. People who need the information, the people that are going to work or trying to find work or trying to put food on the table in Middle America, don't have the time to go on 6 or 7 different social networks. Let's put it this way: Facebook, Twitter, they're the de facto town squares, if you will. Okay, LinkedIn is the de facto place you go for business news. The thing is, if you go to, we can go to Getter and Gab, which are great sites, and even Truth Social, which is very successful right now, at least for now, and talk, but that's preaching to the choir. We don't want to do that. We want to help bring information to people who really need that.
But can I just say something, Chris? So that's all very well and everything else, but if you look at the whole environment and you look at people like this, like Nancy and Anthony and whoever else has gotten off, every single time they do that, and every single time that they censor something, what do? They wake the people up. So therefore, more and more people are waking up to this kind of tyranny. And on top of that, they've also seen that the people that are trying to censor, they recognize that there's a reason for it. And the reason is fear. And it's no longer fear for us anymore. It's fear for them, because they fear us knowing what it is that we know, and they don't want us to spread it. But It's gone too big now. in the last 2 years, we've had COVID. And how many people has that woken up as a result of that having affected their lives on a personal level? We've seen grandmothers, mothers, daughters, sisters, brothers, children all die from this bullshit. And so if that hasn't woken you up, then you're dead. You're dead. And it has woken people up. So there's that one thing. And the other thing I would say, Nancy, is Elon Musk never really wanted to buy Twitter. All he ever wanted to do was the sting operation that's actually happening in front of everybody's eyes. But because he's so high up on that agenda, his agenda was always to wake everybody up. And because he's so well known that, it's money talks in this world,
Money.
One of the richest guys on the planet, if not the richest. And so, everybody's Elon Musk buying, he's going to buy Twitter, this, that, and the other. And it was always a sting operation to show the people what Twitter were all about, which is corrupt. They're corrupt.
Corrupt.
And so therefore, in that way, now the people have observed and have recognized that they actually don't, they're being sued. They're being sued, by the way, for millions for mis-selling a product in the way that they have done to the shareholders. So in some ways you can see it's like crumbling before their very eyes. Then you look at if we're going to talk about Twitter and we're going to talk about YouTube and all these other things, they're all in it together. They're all part of the flipping information, the information thing. And if you look at the likes of CNN, how many people have they lost? You look at the likes of Fox, all these other people that people used to look towards, they're crumbling, honey. They're crumbling before your very eyes. And people are now putting memes up about, and have been for quite some time, about, Twitter and the BBC and all these kind of things being propaganda. So hang on in there, lady, because they're going down. They're going down, babe.
And I mean, I agree. I think Jenny's correct. Just to take a step back and kind of circle it around, I think they were most upset about with me regarding Able Dangers because, to Jenny's point, I broke their narrative. I basically came out and said, no, we knew who these guys were. We were tracking them in this black operation. And if you read the report, they never deny the data. They just say, he just wanted attention. It's like, I love being a clandestine guy. I didn't want to break cover. Anyway, that was what they're upset about, is that I got in the way of their very carefully crafted narrative. And that's what Jenny's saying. They have now taken some test cases and blown them up. And it's all about, for them, the narrative. They all are like lemmings and they all got to follow their narrative. And if you start getting in there with objective truth, you start chopping the narrative off and chopping up that continuity. And that's what they get upset about, because they can't get everybody to go a single direction. And I agree. I think we got to continue to fight. I think we have some of the tools available to us. And look, I'm a child of chaos. The 80s was chaos. I love chaos. And I think we need to embrace the chaos and just do everything we can to be chaotic, at least for now, chaotic to the cause of what they're doing. And then I agree. And then I have a 15-year-old son who goes to school, and he says the end thing is to be gay or lesbian. It's like, what? They're pushing that. They're pushing that. It's like no, that's not a good idea. If you want to be gay, I don't care. Yeah. I mean, as I told him, it's like, I've got Rick Grinnell. He's a good friend. Andre Soriano did the Trump dress. He's gay as the day is long. I love Andre. I don't care. But they're not trying to get kids to do something that it's a difference. And there's that line where if I have no problem with who you sleep, I don't care.
There's a difference between teaching tolerance in high school and
promoting,
grooming kids. Yeah, promoting and grooming in first and third grade. Yeah,
grooming is the word. Yeah.
Grooming is the word. Yeah, the kids now say "Okay, groomer." So, Tony, I want to just bring up something you kind of glossed over, but it's the point here. I can imagine what would have happened to you if we had Twitter and Facebook back in 2001, 2002. All things considered, the guy who found the Hunter Biden laptop was demonized and chastised for being the whistleblowers. The way certain whistleblowers are treated, but Eric the Charming Fella, since I can't say his real name on, we still can't say his real name on,
Eric
on
Chickamauga?
social media. Yeah, yeah.
Eric Chickamauga?
Chalupa, or whatever his name is. He's still a protected entity, and the man heard secondhand news, and it wound up to be a bunch of garbage. In fact, the guy they've been running defense for the last last couple of years was the guy who perpetrated a Ukraine strong arming scandal, and we know where that's led us to these days.
Right.
Okay, so whistleblowers are treated vastly differently depending on what side they're on
Yes.
social media. These things have to stop. This is an absolute war on objective truth, something you said several times in the past, Tony.
So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate with the fact we have this diverse group of warriors here. This is great. I mean, I think the fundamental link between us is just, let's just talk about what the reality is and deal with that. And I think the more, like Nancy said, you say things about COVID or something that, you know, it's inconvenient, they get after you. As Jennie said, if you actually just push against anything, even slightly, even just like, hey, is this really true? No, don't talk about it.
Right.
That's very dangerous. That's, can I say the word fascistic? It's a fascist idea that somehow, if you don't go along with what either the government says, I mean, can you imagine how everybody now wants to support the government? I'm just like flabbergasted. You know, Jennie, there was what was the guys, Anarchy in the UK? Who were those guys that did those songs?
Sex Pistols.
The Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they were us only back then. I mean, it's just amazing. It's like, what the heck are you doing?
And look at the beating Morrissey and John Lydon are taking these days for being honest about what's going on in the world by let's say the bubble left, especially today's bubble. Where's punk gone? Punk is no longer punk these days. Now punk is pro-establishment, which is the opposite of punk.
I know.
Isn't it?
I'm embarrassed because we have a lot of punks in England, and it's so it's so embarrassing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Really is.
Remember, Nancy, when rock used to challenge the establishment too? We don't even have rock anymore. It's a mellow form of millennial whoop rock, which again is pro-establishment.
It's like Kenny G was appointed to the Biden cabinet and started becoming the minister of music.
No, he's the rebel now. You know why Kenny G's the rebel? Because he uses a real instrument.
Oh, good. That's right. No auto tuning for him.
No, he doesn't need it.
But you know what I like. I like a lot of people like Nancy, of course, yourselves. But you know, I've noticed with like the CRT thing. You know, the CRT that they're trying to bring into the schools, which is like the turnaround of, like, you know, blacks against whites.
I know, it's insane.
I mean, didn't we see this about 50 or how many years ago? And it's history repeating itself, but it's reversing the colors. And I have some liberal friends. I don't know how I managed that. That just don't seem to mind it. But then I have others, and thank God for the parents that are fighting this. Because, you know, they're being heard. They're finally now being heard. They weren't before. I'm trying to put it underneath the carpet. And the FBI were out after them as though they were some kind of like domestic terrorists and all. And it's an absolute travesty. But people now, because there are so many parents actually looking at that and thinking, no, what happened to the schooling? Why is all of this getting in the way of the schooling? So we've got all this political agenda, all this bloody grooming, and everyone can see it for what it is. And now they're fighting back. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I'm with you. No, it's like I came up, I enlisted in 1981 in the military, in the Army, and we were colorblind. And I've told people this before in other interviews. My favorite general in the world, I still love him to this day, is Bob Harding. He was black. He just happened to be black. 6'4". I used to say, you know, Bob, when you walk into a briefing, you ought to have the theme from Shaft playing in the background, just, you know, kind of in the background.
Yeah.
And everybody had a sense of humor back then too, and and I love Bob.
Can you imagine if they said that now?
It's like, and so yes, my point is like you could kind of laugh and joke, and we were all on the same team, and it's like now you can't even do that. You know, somehow everybody wants to be offended by any little thing that you say. It's like, you know, for goodness sake, you know, it's horrible. So.
Yeah, but you know, Anthony, it's all about division, darling. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
You know, well, if you're not that, then you're this, and if you're not this, then you're that. And it's like, and oh, come on, you know, it's just, aren't we all supposed to be here on this planet together to just love each other?
Right.
What happened there? What happened to love?
Oh,
You
we have
know, so
have
we
a-
need to get back into that. And I think that we are, with all the things that have gone on. Like I said, during the COVID thing, so many people have been dying, dropping dead. I mean, they're still doing it now.
Well, we have a culture of victimization around here now.
Yeah.
America's I hear it's pretty bad in Britain too, but
Mhm.
America it's not only gotten to a critical mass. It's to the point where pop culture says it's cool to be some kind of victim somewhere along the line, and if you're not a quote unquote victim, or if you are one of the victim class, then or the established victim class, the ones we're telling you are a victim class, not we, they're telling you are a victim class, and you deny that and you say, no, I'm not a victim, I'm a human being, and I refuse to play this game, you're the bad guy. But if you are a if you act like a victim and you pretend to be one, or you identify as one, you are cool, hip, and with it in today's pop culture. And that's something we shouldn't be teaching kids, but that's what they're learning.
Yep, that's true.
Nancy, it's one of the things I know that you, in particular, were talking about Facebook. How do you see our? Because I think you're right there on Facebook, and by the way, I know other folks who you say anything that's not unicorns and rainbows, they kick you, they suspend you on Facebook.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't get it. I mean, and do you have any ideas on how we should do the? I mean, Twitter, I think Elon Musk's going to do a lot to damage that or fix it. But I don't know what to do about Facebook because, and I just friended Jennie, by the way, so we're now friends, and I'm sure we'll say something to get in trouble before the day is out.
Yes.
So.
The thing is that when you say something, yes, go on, Nancy, go on.
Go ahead. Okay, the fact checking alone, I can't post anything without seeing 5 different fact checks. It's just and who's fact checking the fact checkers? You know, it's a lie, obviously, and all bought and paid for. But Facebook is it's a funny animal. They are as bad as Twitter with getting rid of you. I'm just waiting for when they totally get rid of me. I don't know why it hasn't happened yet, because for a while there, I was really on their radar. This was like every week.
Yep.
And that was during the Trump era. They were really on me. I don't know what can be done. And I even think there's an algorithm that they use, because for them to come up with something I said in 2019, 2 years later, was just insane to me.
Yeah.
And when I read what was offensive, I was like, how is that even offensive? But nowadays, everything's offensive. You know, so I just don't know. And I have a lot of conservative friends on Facebook, and then I have a lot of left friends that have left me. You know, they don't want.
But no, I've had the same, Nancy. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same here.
If you even a little bit liked Trump, and I don't idolize anybody. I'm just not that way. But that is who my choice was. And I've actually voted Democrat my whole life, basically. I voted Obama the first term. I was sorry within 3 months. But I'm just saying, I don't choose a political, Trump just happened to be running. I liked what he had to say better than anyone else. That's all it came down to. But so I'm not a party. But Facebook, I think media, if anyone's ever read, and Tony, I'm sure you have, Agenda 21, which is now 20.
Yes, I have.
2030.
Yeah.
2030.
I'm with you. So just to that point,
And I will say this, every single thing, and their big thing was, how do you hit us? With media. It'll be through the media. And that's working. It is working. All your news stations, they're owned by the left. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know how you combat. I want to reach these 18-year-olds that are getting to a voting age, the little ones. You know, you have the parents that are passive parenting. So they're just anything goes too. If it makes my kid happy, no matter what it is, it just doesn't matter. There's not really any parenting going on. But I feel like.
Nancy, I agree with you. So part of this has to be retaking education. And I just mean the basics. So, and you might already know this, Nancy. I don't know if Jennie knows. I've got a degree in environmental studies. I actually took the time and have a dual major, and I can tell you that what they're saying regarding climate change is not correct.
No,
Is there
yes, exactly.
is there a trend towards change? Absolutely. I always tell people, climate change has happened since the Earth cooled from its molten state about 3.8 billion years ago.
Mhm.
And so it's a question: how do you then examine that for purposes of benefiting the environment? The biggest threat today to the environment is plastics. Plastics are everywhere. There's no economic benefit to the left by taking on a real issue. So instead, they're going to hit CO2. CO2 is plant food. So I
Mhm.
try to explain, it's like, I'm not disputing the fact there's change. I'm disputing your method of dealing with it as throwing money at it. That's not the answer. And
Mhm.
so I'm all for the debate. I'm all for renewable energy. I've said we, DoD, should develop things in case we lose the grid, because things could happen. So it's all about rational thinking and incremental improvement, not mass removal of what benefits the economy and the people. I don't understand this idea that we need to put everybody back. And I think this is what's most dangerous about the current political environment. If you say, I'm not
Well,
on with your agenda, they come after you, even if you're qualified to speak on it.
yeah,
So
Well,
well,
there,
That's right.
if you look at the agenda that follows that agenda, then you'll see that it all leads to the point of depopulation.
yes,
They want.
Oh, yes,
yes.
thank you. Bill
Am I
Gates,
right, Nancy?
he-
I'm telling you now. So when they
Well,
get that
Michael
one,
Moore says it. Michael Moore admits it in Planet of the Humans. That's his conclusion at the
that's
end
right.
of the movie. Yeah, I mean,
oh, really? Is that what is it? Okay,
yeah, you ought to see it. It dismantles the green movement using their own terms, and then his
yes.
conclusion is, instead of doing what I say, is like, let's be rational. We need to kill all the people.
well, there
Okay,
was
yeah,
there was
yeah,
There
actually a
you
group.
and
go.
There
they'll
was
be
actually a
That's a
okay.
group.
good
They'll be
idea.
right with that.
There was a
They would
group.
be so dumbed down. They'll be so dumbed down with that bullshit. They'll be all right with that because look what they did with COVID. Oh yeah, we'll take the thingy bob and whatever, and look how many people died as a result. Look how many people's lives were suffered as a result of that. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, look how many people woke up, and we have to look at the positive on this. Yes, there are always going to be casualties of war because at the end of the day, we're at bloody war here. And we're an information war. These people are the enemy
Yes.
of the people. They're the enemy of the
I
people.
think I think we're in a spiritual war, honestly.
That too.
I
Yeah,
think it's
that as well.
I do good versus evil. That's what I think it really comes down to now.
100%.
And I think they want the population to decrease tremendously, and I think they're taking all the steps they need to have that happen.
Mhm.
Well,
But
there
on
there
top,
was a group. There was a group. I've been a broadcast journalist for a long time. I've worked in talk radio and produced many shows and hosted a bunch of them. I used to get all this information from every think tank or group imaginable, from right and left, to try to push talking points on me. And really, I produced my own talking points. There was one of these groups called Negative Population Growth. Tony, I don't know if you remember them from back
I
in the day. I
do.
don't even know if they still
Yeah.
exist, but they were
No,
discussing
they
ideas.
all they negatively populated and they're dead.
Yeah, there we
Just
go.
saying, it's kind of in the name. So.
It's like,
uh,
what is this? Bill Gates or Dwight Schrute running one of these organizations? I don't even know anymore. But but that's what.
It's like a
This is
Monty
not
Python skit,
right, and it's
depopulation. They depopulated
hey, it's
themselves.
not
So,
a new concept. And I believe there's somebody else who thought of this kind of concept. Oh, I don't know, about a century ago. Her name was Margaret Sanger, but I will digress from that as
look,
well.
I talk about racist. No, somebody ought to look at the fact that they have produced this abortion machine in minority communities, specifically aiming towards minority populations. How do
mhm.
they not see this? I don't. It's like I feel like what's that movie Zoolander? Am I
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
crazy pills here? I mean,
But also,
I don't get it.
Anthony, did you also notice that they wanted the black community to be what's his name first? Get the
Yes,
jab first.
yeah,
Oh no,
Yeah,
no, no! So all of a sudden, the black
it's
community they
insane.
want
Yeah, it's obvious.
I have two words for you: Tuskegee experiment.
Yes, of course.
Okay, no one's going to trust a government who does that
What's
sort of
amazing,
thing.
what's amazing is it's so obvious, but it's not obvious to the people that are asleep. It's just not. And I don't know what it takes to open their eyes, but they just don't see half of what I say, they disagree with. The ones I talk.
Well, Nancy, part of it is, to your point, we have to take back the language. They always couch this in, oh, we're trying to give you benefit. You can't handle this, so we're going to help you. This soft bigotry of the left drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's like they always got to help people. Oh, it's like, no, they're not helping you. Remember the Twilight episode, To Serve Man? It's a cookbook.
Yeah, but the thing is, I keep going back to the flip side all the time, because there are positives in this. I mean, look at BLM and Antifa. They've been found out. Some of the people are being sued. So, you know, what's that going to do? George Soros, his money's going to be taken away from him very soon. When the money's taken away, who's he got? He hasn't got anybody to fight his battles. So that's going to be dismantled. It's being dismantled already.
Well, I would like to
the
say
head
that
of BLM, she's being sued for the millions that she took, and no doubt her assets are going to be taken away. So all these people, they're going to have their assets taken away because Trump, in his wisdom, put certain things in the whatever it was that he put in. What is it? I can't remember what you Americans called it, but anyway, he put these EO orders in, or whatever they're called.
Executive orders.
Executive orders. That's the thing. Sorry, honey. And because he could see. This was the whole thing that we're seeing right now is a massive sting operation. Everything right now we're watching is a movie. And
well, I hope so, because we need to get to the other side of this and really upend what's going on.
They're being arrested as we speak. Look, you saw Durham come in. I hate to go about on it, but Nancy, you might understand this. You know, we saw Durham come in, and everybody got really upset because of what's his Sussman getting away with it. He didn't get away with it, honey. Durham got what he wanted. He got them to admit something to do with Clinton, because we're trying to get we're trying to get, she's the one that they're trying to get. Right. And when they get whatever they get from her, the whole adrenochrome, the pizza, the party gate, whether it's Pizzagate it's called, the frazzle drip, all these things with pedophilia, all the things with Haiti, all these things that kind of come out, and Obama and the Bidens are all implemented in it. And in fact, so is Prince Andrew. So it's all coming out. You've got to be happy, guys.
I'm all for it, because, as you know, I've been behind the scenes trying to push to get all this information out for decades, for 2 decades now. I mean, this all goes back to the 90s. I hate to say it. I mean, the 80s were great, and then the 90s, you know, things started going in a direction. To Nancy's point, this has all been planned. I mean, this has been a large effort where they took and put their folks into the bureaucracy. Remember, during the Clintons, I've said this too. This is not conspiracy. People like Lois Lerner and others were put in at a very low level, and they worked their way up. Comey was part of that crowd. All these guys, Mueller. So they were all put in for purposes of working their way up. Yeah.
Well, I totally agree.
Jennie, you bring up a really interesting point, the Durham case, the Sussman case, actually. Durham knew.
It's a sting operation.
Well, Durham knew, and again, this goes back to Elon Musk. Durham knew that he wasn't going to get anybody convicted in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Especially anybody connected with Hillary Clinton,
right.
Because the jury pool is pretty much tainted and biased, and it's also known now that some of the jury members were Hillary Clinton donors.
It's like trying to convince Jim Jones of spiking Kool-Aid in D.C.
Right. But the idea was to get the information out there. Even some of the mainstream media outlets are trying to run defense, but the fact is, even when they run defense, that causes a lot of people in the middle. They're going to be bubble dwellers who will take it at face value. But people in the middle are going to say, "I'd better take a look at this. I need to know more information." And the more people that do that, that's what Durham wants.
That's what I'm saying about they're inadvertently waking up the masses. But look at this in relation to why we're here in the first place, which is to talk about the enemy of the people, which is like the information, the mainstream media. So Durham did that. Sussman apparently got off, but Sussman is a small guy compared to who they're after. Now, the aftermath of which all the liberals are going, yeah, you know, Durham's lost his first case and everything else, but Durham walked out smiling, because he got what he wanted. But what did you see? The aftermath of that was silence from the media.
Yeah.
Silence from the media that have not spoken about the fact that Hillary did actually take part in the Russian collusion. And it's just like that all came out. But what does that show you? It shows that she's still being protected because the media are not saying a bloody word about her and Obama being involved in this bullshit. So they're inadvertently waking people up. And there are memes all over the show about it. Every alternative place that you can go, there's memes about it. There was actually memes on it on Facebook as well. I can't believe how they've not turned them down yet, but they haven't.
I think one of the biggest problems with the social media issue is that I think that and I go back to the younger generation, because obviously my generation are a little more informed, but I think this younger generation is so incredibly uninformed, and their news source is like Facebook or Twitter. That is their news source.
Snapchat.
Or they don't. And also apathy. They don't really care enough to delve in. Well, wait a minute. If my peer group is saying this or my peer group is saying that, they don't, the critical thinking skills are gone. It's like they don't use them. They don't have them.
And and we got to change that. Yeah. So my son, I'm very proud of my oldest son who decided to become a medic and a fireman, and he's now 28 and very much committed. And all I ask him to do is like think for yourself, think for yourself. My youngest, 15, is now in pilot training. He wants to become a pilot. He wants to solo before he has his driver's license. So I think obviously you got to set a good example. But with that said, then you got to get yourself out. As a matter of fact, I was going back and forth with my local community here. One of us who just moved down here, I'm in North Carolina, are going to run for school board. And the last meeting I attended, it was horrible because it was all this woke thinking. It's like, no. So it's time for people to get active. And then to Jennie's point, I think there's larger things at play. People are, I think, waking up, and you've heard of the deep state. There's also the old state. A lot of us who come through the system, who really do believe in free speech. I was brought up by a free speech wacky professor named Dr. Jim Walker, a flaming liberal by his own regard, but his belief was free speech is absolute. The ideas that we exchange, we may disagree with, but you must always find a way to exchange it. Those are principles that we need to instill in everybody. And I've told people the left is out to destroy the very system of dialogue that has made this country great, and that we cannot permit. So
keep in mind, history has shown every left-leaning or far left-leaning government in the history of this world has never been able to survive without forced compliance of the citizenry, and that also means control of all the information. On my 80s show, I interviewed Yakov Smirnov, who was a Soviet immigrant. He used to say,
and a very funny guy.
And he used to say when he was doing jokes in the Soviet Union, doing stand-up, he had to go through and I'm not joking, they had a department of jokes in the Soviet Union. They wasn't allowed to say certain things. This is what we have now, except we have it in a different way. We have it in a more puritanical gangbusters way, whereas Twitter, as you've seen, as has been proven, Twitter has fixed algorithms to prop up left-leaning ideas and kneecap right-leaning ideas. The idea is somebody like Tony comes up with something, exposes something, somebody on the left starts screaming about it, and they get their buddies and friends or whoever else, all their followers, just banging them, bots just banging on them until you fight back, until you fight back and you get kicked off of Twitter. The idea is, yes, probably the best way to solve this problem is to expose it. We all don't have the money like Elon Musk has to just troll them and say, ha, look what you've done. Now I've exposed you. But we do have a network. We do have ways to pass this information. And we also have knowledge. We can make sure the younger generation knows it's going to take a while, but we're going to keep feeding this knowledge, and a free and open exchange of ideas will prevail in the future. Keep in mind, even the left-leaning people who were for free and open exchange, a lot of their people now have become the establishment. When your professor was not the establishment, Tony, he was for free and open exchange. Now, a lot of people on the left who are the establishment, a free and open exchange of ideas will change people's minds about what's coming out of the government.
What is the best way to reach these lost thinkers?
Well, one of the things that you guys are doing is through music. I mean, popular culture. We got to take back popular culture. right, Jen? I mean,
No,
Jenny,
I have to say, talking about popular culture, I mean, I have never seen so many people actually find the subject that they like about more than this one. Do you know what I mean? More than the tyranny, more than the corruption, and whether they focus on an individual or the whole global form of corruption. Never before have I seen my peers talk about this and then create something amazing out of it. If you look at like, was it Ian McDonald, is it, or Jim, I can't remember his name, is it Ian? I can't, anyway, he's amazing. Tom McDonald.
Oh, John, I love his stuff. Oh yeah,
his lyrics are just so important. And so if you then go to his concerts, this guy can put something on YouTube. You go to his concerts, he can put something on YouTube. Within a day, you've got 1 million people.
Yeah.
Within a week, you've got so many millions of people. I mean, sorry, so that's one way. And then, of course, so he's affecting a whole lot of people. He's not the only artist. There are artists in every single genre that has somebody like him that actually speaks to their people. And then you've got the fine artists that actually, you know, like Banksy, who they tried to censor and they couldn't anymore, and then he became like the most popular artist in the world. He could paint something on a wall and they take the bloody wall down,
right?
Because it would they take it down and put it in an art gallery. Yet he, in the beginning, was censored. So the tides are turning, and but on top of that, you know, if that was, you know, I think the good thing about all of this is they are like I said, they're inadvertently kicking themselves in the butt, right, and waking up the people. And what that's doing is people are very social media savvy these days, especially the young ones. And so they're writing their own songs on their own at home. They pass out the middleman in the music business so as they can actually say and express themselves in the way that they would like. So that's a good one. And then on top of that, you've just got, you know, you've got a wealth of alternatives that are popping up here and there. I mean, there are so many now that I can't even tell you. You know, you've got your Rumble, you've got your BitChute, you've got all of these different ones that are popping up out of the place. And Telegram. I mean, Telegram is huge. It's absolutely huge, and they're all talking. And the mainstream media are the only people that want them all banished. Well, when the people say that they want them banished, they realize that there's one problem, and that's the mainstream media. And they also realize that in censorship, it's about fear and it's about panic. And it isn't about us panicking, it's about them panicking.
Right.
So we are winning. We're winning because they are shitting themselves. We are winning. And one more thing, Nancy, I've got to say to you, if you look at those things that you, the false flags, people are going to get hurt. But if you look at the history of all those people that have like done the mass murders in schools and everything else, what's the one thread that runs through it? The one thread that runs through it is every single person had a mental kind of problem, or some kind of they were doused in drugs and everything else, which I personally think is an MK Ultra thing.
Oh, I agree. There's something to that.
Huh?
I think the mental health issue and the idea that kids are being kind of groomed, to use the term you talk about.
That's the baby.
Because it's too specific. It happens often. There are, again, I'm just looking at this as an intelligence officer. I look for patterns. Well, in law enforcement, look for essentially violations. I look for indicators. I look for things that start shaping. You know, it's like the scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You know, you build a potato. It's like this means something, and that's what we're talking about here. There's patterns which seem to happen. By the way, anybody notice it didn't happen under Trump? That a lot of this stuff just dropped off to include Islamic terror, and now it's all back. And I, to me, that's not random. You can't. That's not like, it's just a cycle. But I think we have to look deeper into this, relating to the fact that there are things that are done to children, especially those who are troubled, that kind of put them on this path, and then nobody sees it coming. Oh yeah, he was troubled and he had all this, but we had no idea he would do this. Like, are you serious?
Yeah. But it's always that. I mean, you say you watch the pattern, and I do too, and I've observed this. And I've observed also oh God, this agenda is so complicated, and it's so effing genius what they've done. I mean, even for me to actually say the dark side has been really genius about it. It is genius, Nancy. You know, it really bloody well is. And it's an agenda. And an agenda that they have many, many tools that they use in order to be able to implement that agenda. And one of the tools they use is Hollywood.
Yes.
Right.
If you look at the Manchurian Candidate, if you look
I just watched that the other night, the Denzel Washington one. Denzel Washington's great.
I saw that in
That's
2008.
what you're watching. The mass murders, that's what you're watching. That's what they've done. And they've shown you. And the reason why they've shown you is because it's universal law that they have to show you that before they do it. Look at Hunger Games. Now look at what they're doing to the people, trying to make the whole world hungry. That's what they're expecting to happen, honey.
Oh, by the way, you know what year Soylent Green's supposed to be taking place, right? 2022. Soylent Green takes place in 2022.
Hello, I ain't eating nobody. Literally.
I'm with you. So I think this is another thing that I'd like to see us try to take control back of is Hollywood. I mean, again, speaking of that, Jennie, Top Gun Maverick. Well, everybody, I saw that movie. It is a great movie, and I have no stake in the movie, and I thought it was going to suck, but it took what worked in the 80s and kind of updated and upgraded. There was no woke in it. It was kind of representative of kind of the current environment, and it was kind of like, that's entertainment. That's what it should be. And it actually was educational in many ways because it talked about some of the traditions that made America great. And it's not like we're, it's. I don't think it's to the point of where people would be offended by anything in it. But at the same time, it's like, hey, strong character development. The idea of right and wrong is pretty clearly defined. And I think that's what we should look at is how do we get back control of the cultural narrative and produce good content. So I think that's
well, you have to get rid of the dark ones, but look at the dark ones now. It's not good. And then look at your borders with the legal,
the borders.
I
wrote a book about that. The Last Line. That's what that book's about. The Last Line. So yeah.
I like how they changed the pedophilia to MAPs, minor attracted persons. So it sounds more respectable.
Kind of literal, so that it's acceptable.
I do remember
and legally acceptable.
Yeah, I do remember. I forgot which one. Salon Slate. I always forget which one is which because they're interchangeable to me. One of those two. It was years ago, more than a decade ago, or around a decade ago. Posted an article trying to legitimize pedophiles as a sexual preference.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is we joke about, hey, what you're going to want one thing. Well, pretty soon the pedophiles are going to try to become mainstream. Well, yes, the attempts have been made, and there are attempts now to do so. Again, I believe this might be where a lot of people are going to say, hey, I'm drawing the line here.
No, they have done.
Be what you want. I don't care if you're a trans. I don't care. But when it comes to kids, because look, you're an adult. Do what you want to do. This is a free country. But when it comes to children, stay away.
But you know what?
Stay away.
Yeah. But you know what? In this country, we had. This is one of the main reasons why they're trying to take down the protests. But people aren't having it. They don't give a shit. I love the UK. I love being here because they are on fire. They don't muck about. And they're not interested in your COVID or your this and that, your poisons and stuff. But the subject obviously came up around about the child trafficking and everything else. You saw millions on the street, and they went to the BBC because the BBC is one of these people that will, we're ready. Have you guys ever heard of a guy called Jimmy Savile?
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's a special on Netflix I want to watch. I haven't seen yet. Yeah, I want to see that special. I've heard.
He's disgusting. Well, that also relates to the royal family because the royal family and him were really good friends. And what happened, if you don't know, he ended up he was a charity person in this country. Everybody was, Jimmy Savile. He had his own TV show and everything else. But what they didn't know behind the scenes was he held the keys to a mental institution that was really, really large. And he used to go and bugger the children in there, right? And on top of that, used to go down the morgue and have sex with the dead people in there. This was a guy that was knighted by the Queen.
Oh, boy.
Hello. And so what does that do? When he dies, the BBC all of a sudden want to put him on a pedestal. But no, the English people weren't having it because it all came out. And so they kind of like shriveled away and like, tails between their legs and we better shut up. You're damn right you're going to shut up because you are going to be closed down if you don't. And so the English people just went for it. And it went on for like 6 months constantly in the papers. And who else was in the papers? The Queen and everybody else surrounded by this dial. He was surrounded by royalty. And so it took a lot. It woke the people up.
Right.
And so, and so the people have been like fighting ever since from Peter Fidinger. It'll never happen in our country.
Jenny, but it's not over. I mean, let me tell you something recently. I used to love Doctor Who, just let you know. I love Doctor Who, but it's gone under the current BBC. There's an episode of the Jodie Whittaker eye roll Doctor Who. And I love Peter Capaldi. I mean, that guy, he was a great Doctor Who.
Was he the old guy? Was he
the old guy? Yeah. But then they replaced her with, and they've basically broken canon, and they did an episode. This is going to get me in trouble. This is going to get me banned in England, by the way. Timeless Child. The Timeless Child. It's an episode I recommend you because it shows a child being murdered over and over and over. Think about this. This is BBC showing a child to justify the creation of the Time Lords. Who does that sort of thing? Who actually puts child abuse as a mainstream canonization of a series to make that as the origin of the series? Think about that. Think about that. And this is mainstream. This is Chibnall. This is Chibnall Who. This is Doctor Who.
Yeah,
this is hidden in plain sight.
Right.
So to make your point, Jenny, they haven't stopped. I mean, it's out there. This is what they did to reinvent and make mainstream the idea that, murdering children, no big deal.
Yeah.
And sexualizing children on Disney, no big deal.
And Nickelodeon, don't forget
this
that
is in people's face. Yeah, this is in people's face. And nobody says anything about it. And then we're the crazy ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing. Amazing.
Well, we have to keep fighting this war on objective truth, and that's what we're doing. We should continue this discussion another time. We have run into overtime a bit, and I want to thank all of you for being with us for this special edition of Thought to Action, presented by the Herb London Center for Policy Research. Thank you to Jennie Matthias and Nancy Quatro Glass for joining Tony Shaffer and I. Please remember to hit the like button. Feel free to comment on our discussion. We appreciate your thoughts. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our Thought to Action channel and pound the big red bell for updates for future shows. You can also check us on our website, londoncenter.org. And if you would like to help us continue to produce programming like this, please join our Patreon, patreon.com/thought-to-action, or check out our Teespring store, our Thought to Action Teespring store. The link is in the description. For our panel and guests from the London Center for Policy Research, I'm Chris Cordani. Thank you, stay informed, and make your day a great one.
And if your friends don't dance, they're no friends of mine.
Absolutely.
Mine either. Don't believe the hype, everybody.
Oh.